Hello dear students, in this video I am going to talk about a horror and a suspense story titled The Monkey's Paw, written by an English writer W. Jacobs. This story is about a mysterious object called Monkey's Paw, which has supernatural powers to grant 3 wishes to the people who have it. First, let me introduce the characters of this story. We have a Mr. White. So we have a family called White's family, and we see Mr. White, Mrs. White, and their son Herbert, Mr. Herbert, and we also have one more important character, that is Sergeant Major Morris. The story, The Monkey's Paw, begins on a cold, rainy day. The family members, Mr. White, Mrs. White, and their son Herbert, they all are sitting by the fire, and Mr. White and his son are playing chess. And by this time, a visitor comes to their house. Sergeant Major Morris visits Mr. White's family. He is a close friend of Mr. White. So he visits Mr. White after coming back from India. So he had gone to India. So after coming back, he visits Mr. White and he shares his travel experience with these family members. And he also narrates some stories about some supernatural objects. And as he was talking about some supernatural objects, he mentions this monkey's paw, which has some supernatural power. He says that this monkey's paw is very unique, is very strong. It has some supernatural powers. It grants 3 wishes to the people, to the man who has it. And he also warns that one should be very careful before making a wish, because the wish which is made will be fulfilled, but it is fulfilled in a very dreadful, horrific way. So explaining about this monkey's paw, Mr. Morris decides to throw the monkey's paw into the fire. But Mr. White is very curious to know about monkey's paw. He is very excited to test the power of this monkey's paw. So he tries to retrieve it from the fire, and finally he gets it and decides to make his wishes. And he discusses with his family members, and finally their son Herbert suggests Mr. White to make a wish for 200 pounds. So Mr. White holds the monkey's paw in his hand and makes his wish, and the wish is 200 pounds. Nothing happened that night, so Morris also leaves and they also go to bed. Nothing happens that night. When their wish is not fulfilled, the family members, the 3 of them, start making fun of this monkey's paw. And the next day, Mr. Herbert, their son, Mr. White's son, goes for his work. And in the evening, the couple, Mr. and Mrs. White, get a news. It's a bad news. They hear that their son died in an accident. This was really shocking news for the couple. And they also hear that there is some compensation for his death. The compensation is 200 pounds, the exact money that Mr. White wished for. And Mr. White regretted for making that wish. He feels that he should have not played with that mysterious object. But now nothing can be done. They lose their child. And after this incident, Mr. White does not play with this mysterious object, and for few days nothing happens. And after few days, it is Mrs. White. Mrs. White demands Mr. White to make the second wish. The second wish is to bring back their lost son. But Mr. White does not dare to do that. He is not ready to take risk. He is not ready to play with that supernatural power. But when Mrs. White insists on him, he finally makes the second wish. The second wish is to bring back their dead son. The moment he makes the second wish, their dead son, Herbert, comes back from graveyard, but in a very unexpected, dreadful, horrific way. and it starts knocking the door very horrifically, very terribly. And Mr. White guesses some danger and he uses the third wish. The third wish is to send back that Herbert to the graveyard. So this is all about the story, The Monkey's Paw. This is actually an alarming story for the people who have greed and the people who dare to play with supernatural powers. This story teaches us to be happy with what we have, not to be greedy. So that's all about today's session. Thank you.